Welcome to the Brokers Lounge with Eddie and Carlo. Disclaimer: the information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you want to book a free call to discuss your personal situation.
Welcome to the first episode of the Brokers Lounge. If you're in the market to buy your next home, buy your next investment property, learn about lending and finance and how the back-end process of banks work, then you have come to the right place. I'm Eddie and I'm joined here by my colleague Carlo.
Hi everyone.
How you doing, Carlo?
Doing very well, Eddie. It's great to be here and help our listeners out there to learn everything about finance. So yeah.
Absolutely. I guess that's the reason we're doing this podcast. It's just bring as much education to our listeners. Just teach some tips that we see all the time, some mistakes that we see all the time, and just bring as much value as possible. And hopefully we can help someone in achieving their goals or dreams.
Yeah, I think that's the aim of our podcast, is because, we deal with mortgages on a day-to-day basis, Eddie, and we sometimes take it for granted about how much we actually know about mortgages, but sometimes we have to take a step back and realise that it's not at the forefront of everyone else's mind. People out there do need our help. So this is a great opportunity for us to speak to our listeners about, everything to do with a mortgage. So
Absolutely. And I think the best way to start this is introducing ourselves so people know who we are, what we do, and how we have become mortgage brokers. Carlo.
Yeah, so you can tell by the grey hair, Eddie, I've had about 35 years of experience in banking and finance. Most of it predominantly about 30 years worth in the banking sector across multiple different banks out there and different types of roles, all the way from leaving high school and going straight to work to the Commonwealth Bank. Just by way of background, I don't think I've even told you this, but when I got the job offer from the Commonwealth Bank in 1989, this goes back a long way now, you can almost tell how old I am, but I also got another job offer that day from the Australian Taxation Office. So I had two job offers, one was with the Commonwealth Bank, one was with the ATO, and
we love them both.
I'm not too sure about that, but obviously chose the Commonwealth Bank, and the rest is history. So yeah, I've worked in multiple roles, Eddie, across the banks, from branch land to corporate lending and finishing off in private banking as well. So I had a really good background in working in all different types of areas, dealing with all different types of customers as well. But about 5 years ago, I decided I think it's time to jump ship and jump on the other side of the fence and delve into the broking world. And predominantly, Eddie, that was more driven by the fact that, working in a bank, you're typically only dealing with the one type of products, the one type of policies. And if you couldn't get your customer's deal to actually work, you'd have to say no, which is a horrible thing to say to clients. And that was really the challenging bit, is, not being able to give the client the full range of options and alternatives out there. So I really love the idea of being able to go to a client saying, it might be no to a particular lender, but we can find you another option here. So that pretty much drew me towards becoming a broker. And the other thing as well, it's very much a relationship game, as we know. And I had multiple clients over the years who wanted to refer me on to a friend or a family or a colleague. But if, I was working in the private bank, and there's typically a criteria for working, for having a client in the private bank. But if that client didn't actually fit that criteria, you'd have to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you personally. I can refer you on to somebody else, but it's like, no, but we want them to deal with you, Carlo. So, this is a great way to be able to deal with all different types of clients. Exactly right. I can deal with first home buyers through to seasoned professional investors, all the like. So it's great. So Absolutely. That's pretty much about me. So absolutely love it. Love doing what I'm doing, and I love just helping clients on a day-to-day basis. So, and yourself, great. Eddie, tell me about your background.
My background. Yeah. It's interesting. So I came to Australia in 2011 from Lebanon, and I had a couple of years experience in banking over there. And when I came to Australia, it was a bit hard finding a job because everyone was asking for Australian experience, but I just landed here. So it was a bit tough, and I had to do what I had to do, being married, and then I bought my first property in 2013. And I think that could be like a different topic we can discuss at a different stage. But buying that property had me tied down to a job I don't like at the time. And I just had to go to that job every day because you've got mortgage repayments, you've got responsibilities. So I was tied down to that job until in 2015, I decided I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm wasting my time, my years. I need to do a change. And a good friend of mine was setting up his broking firm and was like, do you want to join us and learn, do bits and pieces, see how you go? And I decided to sell my property, which is ironic, selling my property to become a mortgage broker.
Oh, wow.
But I guess that was the best decision I made. From an investing point of view, it would look not a great decision, missing out on capital gains. But in life investment and life decisions, that was the best thing I've done, because that freed me up to invest in myself, take my time to start as a broker. And I started in 2015, learning my way up. I did a couple of years at ANZ as a mobile lender, and then eventually joining Link and being part of the team here. And it has been a very rewarding journey on a personal level. Just dealing with people is my greatest trait, and just being able to see perspective and deal with as many different backgrounds as possible, building that relationship along the way. And I've got customers I've been dealing with 6+ years now, so it's very rewarding, and I'm dealing with their kids now. So it's a great place to be. It's a great job to do. Obviously the finance part can be a bit boring or annoying at times, but the biggest factor that I enjoy what I do is the people that I work with and the customers I deal with. So yeah,
you definitely know you're doing things right when you've got customers that you've been dealing with for, like you said, 6 or so years. And I've got some that I've been dealing with for probably close to 20 years now, and the beauty of social media and platforms like LinkedIn, doesn't matter where you go, they'll always find you. So and it's a great testament, I think, and it really does highlight that what we do is really relationship driven. And a lot of our clients would typically say to us on a day-to-day basis, my accounts are with Commonwealth Bank, or I'm just picking a bank here behind you, but I don't know who looks after me, and that's a real sad story that we hear on a day-to-day basis. So.
100%. I guess this brings us to, especially considering your background, the difference, and that's something we hear every day, dealing with the bank directly versus dealing with a broker. Would you be able to tell us?
Yeah, I think a few things that come to mind with, I guess, dealing with a broker versus dealing with a bank directly. First and foremost, and a lot of people have probably heard this along the way as well, is our access to a multitude of different lenders. What have we got access to? 40, 50 odd lenders, which is great. We typically don't deal with that many lenders on a day-to-day basis. We probably deal with up to about 10, but it just gives us options, and I think that's the biggest thing, because as I mentioned previously, when you're working in a bank, you may have a client who has a deal for you and you just can't make it work for one particular reason.
Yep.
Now, and you had to say no to your client working within the bank. Nowadays, as a broker, you can sit back and go, okay, it doesn't fit with that particular lender. We can go and source that to a lender out there where it will actually fit within their policy and guidelines or whatever it might be. So obviously having access to a multitude of lenders, first and foremost, is a big plus for dealing with a broker. Expertise and advice, I think this is a major thing in my eyes. Most brokers out there, including ourselves, have a vast experience behind us. We've worked on a multitude of different types of deals with varying complexities as well. And I think our ability to understand, the the complex financial products that we deal with on a day-to-day basis is massive, and we provide valuable insights to our clients as well that may not be readily available through a bank. So I think that's it's definitely a positive for us in what we do on a day-to-day basis. And the other thing would be potentially better rates. Once again, it goes back to having a multitude of different lenders that we can deal with. We don't have to just go and get an interest rate pricing for one particular bank. We can go across different lenders, sort of play them off against each other and get the best possible deal, because at the end of the day, we're acting in the best interest for our clients. And I think that's super important that, we are getting the best deal for our clients every single time, whether that be from a service, product, but also pricing point of view. Convenience is another big one for me. A lot of people, they get a little bit worried about when they have to go and get a loan. It's like, oh my God, I've got to do all this and I've got to do that. I've got to get all this information together. How am I going to deal with the banks and all this? Well, we do a lot of that legwork for them. We're the ones who are collating all the information from them, understanding exactly what we do need to get from them, and packaging that up, speaking to the various lenders, workshopping deals, so that the process from end to end is quite seamless.
Yep.
Even from when the loan's even approved right through to settlement. It's important that we take away a lot of that anxiousness that clients have when they're going through this process, and we take away a lot of that extra effort that they have to put in. So I think it's definitely a benefit for clients out there. Probably the final thing I'll be thinking about would be, and I mentioned it earlier on, is personalised service. I hear many times people go into a bank and it's like, I don't know who I'm dealing with, they don't understand me. Whereas dealing with a broker, we've typically got long-term relationships that we're dealing with clients. We've known them for a number of years. We understand where they've come from, what they're looking to achieve, where they're at the moment, and we can relay that back and tell the story to the lender that we put in the loan with. 100%. So that personalised service, I don't think you can really quantify that too much. So it's one of those things that probably we take for granted a little bit, but it's we definitely don't underestimate it, that's for sure. So so they're probably the main things that I would see as a difference between dealing with a broker versus dealing with a bank.
Yes.
I'd be keen to hear from you, Eddie, in your experiences over the past 10 years in being a broker, what are some examples that you've had where you've seen the benefits of dealing with yourself, a client's dealing with yourself, versus if they went directly with a bank?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I guess especially these days, considering banks are sort of exiting the branches and closing down that personal service that they had, it's adding that extra layer that we provide, which is not there anymore. And with the bank, you don't know who you're dealing with, because you can be assigned to anyone at any point, and then try chasing up and then try providing all the information all over again can be a bit painful. So I know for a fact the customers that we deal with, like probably the first initial meeting and introduction, we'd require all the information and sit down and understand the full process and full objectives. But then moving forward, you just build that relationship, and you don't need to go through the whole process every time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know 90% of their background and what they're doing and what we did. It's just a matter of continuing and changing or amending little bits and pieces here and there. So that plays a huge role.
Yeah, the last thing a client wants to really be doing is
providing
having to provide the same things over and over again.
100%.
Purely because someone in the bank has moved on and the next person that comes in doesn't know them.
And
we want to provide that continuity, really,
100%. Start from zero every time. It can be a bit frustrating. You try to do what's easier and what's more convenient for your customers, and find ways to make it easier rather than find ways to make it harder, which I find a lot of the times banks do that. We're not trying to bash banks here, but that's what's happening in reality, and that explains why a lot of people are seeing the value of a broker and working with brokers. So obviously there's a lot to provide. Also from a value point of view, like you can potentially try and deal with the bank yourself and try and get your finances sorted yourself. If you can go out there, contact 5, 6, 7 different banks, try to get their products and their rates and what they can offer, and then work around their policy to get an approval, and then waste X amount of hours trying to do that and making sure you have got the best product, then by all means go for it. The only thing you're saving is $0, and you're wasting X amount of hours doing that, because as a broker we can do that for free as part of the service we provide. Like, a lot of brokers do not charge, we just receive a commission from the bank, and that commission does not get added into your interest or your package or anything. It's just a separate fee that we get paid, and it's pretty much a free service. And then you're providing the insight, you're providing the experience, you're providing what would be the best option based on their circumstances, their policy, all that sort of stuff. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
It's quite a unique industry, isn't it, that
Absolutely.
we work within, where we can provide hours and hours upon advice and guidance for a client at absolutely no cost to them.
Cost.
You know, we do get paid, as you mentioned, by the banks. We don't even get paid that when the loan actually settles. So, you know, it's great for our clients to be able to utilise our knowledge, our expertise, and our time, and helping them save their time and money as well. So, you know, it's like, you know, wanting to get, you know, car insurance or house insurance or health. You know, who likes jumping on the phone and speaking to all the insurance providers? I know I don't. I leave that to my wife, actually. But I definitely don't like it. It's mind numbing. So for me,
100%.
You know, from a lending point of view, to have someone to do all that legwork for you, that's massive. Absolutely.
It is. And obviously we're brokers, like, we're going to be speaking for brokers, but it's really a no-brainer. And I know from the customers I deal with on a monthly or annual basis, like, there's always something they need, or they just sometimes want to run scenarios or explore options. Like, if they want to buy a property in 2 years or 3 years, can actually put a plan on how we can achieve that, what they need to do, what they need to understand in regards to their income level, or if they want to pay down some debt, or there's really huge amount of value that we can bring to the table for nothing. So it's a no-brainer. I guess from examples we've had over the years of people working with us, look, there's plenty of examples, but just like as a general example here, I know a lot of people, policy plays a huge role. Okay, so like a lot of people who are sole traders, or they're just starting their business, they're setting up their company, they've got 1 year trading, they think they don't have any option out there. Okay, so if you're banking with whoever and that bank does not have a policy to cover what your circumstances are, then you're missing out. But dealing with a broker, you'd be able to tap into those options that you're not aware of outside. Also, if some people might have some credit impairments or missed payments or something, they think, we've got no options. And then obviously working with us, you can give them options, and then give them multiple options, and it's up to them how they want to go through that. Also, most recent one I've got was actually, it fits perfectly, because the customer originally called me and she said, I want to deal with this bank because I bank with them and I like him. But what can you provide? And I said what we can do, what we can provide, and I didn't actually recommend the bank she banks with. And then when we went through the process, so she purchased, there's a contract of sale, and valuation came in 50k lower than the contract of sale. So we have the capacity to order 10 different valuations with 10 different lenders to see if we've got other options. Like, if you're working with this bank, that's it. You don't have any other option except you going out there and trying to figure it out yourself, which can be overwhelming, especially when there's a contract of sale and there's a finance clause and there's a settlement date. So it can be overwhelming. I think you should have a few as well.
It's definitely come across many over my time. One of the more recent ones, I had a client who actually approached me through a referral of a friend of mine, where she had pre-approval done through her current bank, one of the big fours, I won't mention their name, And she's told me the details regarding the actual pre-approval, and I looked at the numbers and then went, it just doesn't make sense. One, why the interest rate's so high. Then I started looking at the loan amount, and things just didn't seem to add up. And what I ended up finding out when I started digging a little bit deeper was that the loan amount actually had lender's mortgage insurance added on top. And I said, you do realise you've got about $11,000 worth of lender's mortgage insurance added on top of this loan amount. She wasn't aware of that. And it didn't make sense to me as to why nothing was even discussed with her with regards to, did she have access to any other funds? So I asked her, will you have access to anything else? Will parents be able to help out or anything like that? And she said, yeah, my parents will be able to definitely help me out here. And I said, if we can get it back to an 80% loan to value ratio, then one, we don't have to worry about mortgage insurance. Straight off the bat, you've saved yourself $11,000. Secondly, the interest rate will probably go down by about 0.5 to 0.75%. Massive savings for her. Yeah, so essentially, Eddie, it meant that she thought going to her current bank was the best option for her. She was probably none the wiser. Luckily enough for her, she had very wise parents who turned around and said, we really think you should go and speak to a mortgage broker and just find out if that's really your only option. And sure enough, that was the phone call that I had with her, and it's basically led to a much better position for her where she's going to save a lot more money in the longer term as well with a lower interest rate. So it just speaks volume as to why you really need to look just outside your one and only bank that you typically would deal with.
Yes. I think also that, just to add one more thing here, that brings the topic of loyalty with banks. Like I'm seeing it a lot less now, but I remember back in a few years back, people used to be, I'm loyal to this bank. I'm like, you can't be loyal to a bank. You're just a number. They don't care who you are. And there's something that we call the loyalty tax, where existing customers actually pay more interest rates than new to bank customers, and that just speaks volume on how banks actually think about existing customers. It's just look after yourself and your family. That's what matters, not after the bank's interests.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that if you just stay with the bank, they're happy to just have your loan as a set and forget. They want to literally set it and forget all about it, and hopefully 100%. That you don't go and bug them about the interest rate going forward. Whereas us as brokers, we're doing regular reviews of our clients' loans.
Absolutely.
And making sure that what they've got is still competitive out there in the market, which is super important as well. So
yes, and that's very important. Like, not every customer we see, we straight away refinancing or trying to refinance or trying to pull away from the bank. Like, a lot of customers I see, especially now, there's no point refinancing. They're on actually good rate within the market average. So it's not straight away, all right, let's refinance. If it makes sense, great, stay with the bank, keep doing what you're doing. But like you said, constantly looking at options and, knowing you are well priced in the market. Because at the end of the day, it's a 30-year mortgage, it's a 30-year term. Lots changed during the 30 years, and you want to make sure, you're always well positioned to make sure you're not overpaying and trying to find ways to pay down as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so I think the key point for us is that we do act in the best interests of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely paramount to everything that we do every single day.
Especially after the Royal Commission, lots of rules and regulations came into place, which I thought were brilliant, because it actually cleaned the industry and made it more professional in terms of how you provide service and recommendations and how you go about conducting your recommendations to customers. So it made it really fair for customers, and like you said, we were always working towards the customers' benefit, because we've got no benefit working for the bank. It's all about the customers. If our customers are happy, we're happy, and that's what matters. So
yeah, exactly right. Well, I think that's about it for today's episode, Eddie. And I think hopefully everyone's enjoyed the very first episode of the Brokers Lounge and found it, most importantly, very helpful in your future endeavours as well. You'll find our contact details in the show notes, and we welcome any feedback you may have, topics you want to hear about, any particular guests that you want to see on our podcast as well.
Yeah, 100%. We'd love your feedback, and obviously we'll try and bring as much value going forward and bring some good guests hopefully. And don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.